This is only the beginning.
Make sure they say tripping on what I've done. Motivation, have to kill it, got no choice. I see about to give up at the start. Like it never been me, pushing till it scars, make my own way. I spend my measures in the dark. Lost count of times I've had to pray to God. My mind is hurt, that's why I work so hard. And even still the top, it's not enough, it's not enough now. I'll get it figured out. I stay working while they over trying to get me, yeah, so I'ma stop problems. They put the villain out. Looking for the limit that they speak about. Focus on the target, and yet they take it out. It's enough for me, cause since I came around, now look how it's gone by. Then they gon' flip me now. Beating up the clips and put a rubber flap. Take time for me in my mind, in the dojo. Play conversations in my mind, just to focus on. If I don't believe it, live or die. To my soul and soul, once I see a reason in my life, I keep walking on my guide. I cannot fucking wait to blue side. This is a distance, space to realize. I guess I'm fucking wasting all my time. All the lessons need to learn by now. Pass the final. Stay confident with the nerves of a psycho. Game with the wild space on arrival. Ain't much is different when they hate how would I know. Play hard with it, I don't chase where the hype goes. Stay sharp with it, let the two when you lie low. Fake hard living is a waste with denial. I just put in work and I've been waiting for my arrival.
Hey, boss, there's someone out here asking for you.
Love! Like fucking cancer! I won't feel guilty! It was never in my plan, trying to put me at a 10, but I guess I gotta do right. Pressure from the place, and I'm turning up to 5, yeah, they never feeling patient. The price is working more, cause I'm still burning inside. Escape to a life we're done. The kid is not in the place for vacancy. Cup is a sign of ignorance. Part of the talk from a lifeless land. It just shows me again on a picture shit when it's broken in face. It's opposition of well-being, cause I learn from your mistakes. I just wish that you would do something.
Hey, so this is Julie Behling with Beneath Sheep's Clothing, and today I am interviewing Ty King, and Ty is here with an extremely interesting story and extremely interesting and relevant research that he's done into Antifa. And himself being a former member of Antifa, I think this is something that all of us need to listen to and really comprehend what he has to say. Ty, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today. It's good to see you again. It's been about a year since the last time I interviewed you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me back. And oh my God, to say it's been a year is such an understatement. It feels like the last year's been 3 with everything going on. But yeah, I would encourage your viewers to go back to the first interview you and I did, because that interview was really healing for me, because you're one of the first people I spoke to. And, you know, I just kept reaching out to more people, doing my own research, you know, just going all these crazy avenues. And it's been very healthy for me mentally to be able to operate moving forward, like being able to confess these things to the public and to have people such as yourself willing to sit down and listen, because I think that's what a lot of people in Antifa, or rather who are a part of Antifa, need to do, especially right now. I hate to tell this to you and your audience, but more attacks are coming, more assassinations are planned, and this is the beginning stages of a civil war in their eyes. Now that the label domestic terrorist has been used, that is going to be their ultimate victim status, the ultimate tool that they're going to use to recruit and to justify horrible, horrible actions. And I personally see the move as labeling them domestic terrorists as a miscalculation, but it's certainly warranted, and I can respect the move. And every day just seems like it's getting crazier and crazier. But yeah, I won't ramble too hard on that.
Yeah, so let's just give the viewers a little bit about your background, your experience with your participation with Antifa back in 2020 in Portland in those riots.
Oh, Eugene, actually. I had connections to the Portland, but yeah.
Okay, in Eugene, Oregon. And just really briefly, what was it that got you involved with Antifa? What is it that got you out? And what is your main goal now with coming out and sharing with people? So go ahead and share that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really long story, and I would encourage all your listeners to check out my podcast, The Triple B Collective, where I've just been deep diving like crazy this past year, everything about that. But essentially, what really got me into it was like the political climate at the time, the fact that everything felt so existential. You know, the news is bombarding you with cosmic events, and you're watching everything collapse around you. You feel like you don't trust the government. I completely isolated myself from my family. I fell prey to drugs and alcohol very, very hard, as most members do. And at the time, I would have told you that I was jumping in because of George Floyd and the atrocities that are happening to the African American community. But in hindsight, really what that was just an excuse. I had different concerns about the government. I feel like I was acting out on, but a lot of what I was taking out on society was really father issues at the end of the day. Coming from a really rough background, but also getting to see, while living with my father when I was younger, more of a dark kind of underbelly side to everything. So I always looked at the world from a different lens than other people. So whenever I was in Antifa, there's a myriad of reasons why I left. It's like getting out of a bad relationship. It took so much abuse and nonsense, and me being willing to put up with so much and engage in so much that over time it broke. But one thing that really, really got me, I can think back to, is the fact that because I had seen people in my life who were members of the Aryan Brotherhood, real white supremacists, real Nazis, you'd think being a part of that group, we'd want to learn about that. But learning about that type of stuff scares those people. They don't want to talk about it because it's too gritty. It's too dark to think about. So who do they paint as Nazis instead? People like Charlie Kirk. They go for the celebrity targets because it's all high school drama politics at the end of the day with what they're engaging with. But now it's turned, I really believe that what we're going through right now is a white man's jihad. I keep saying young white man, young white man, young white man, young white man, young white man. And the more I explore my story and trying to figure out why that was me and why I was almost willing to kill somebody out in the streets myself, I'm realizing that there's a whole psychology and culture to this group that people just aren't aware of. And that's kind of what my goal has been over the last year, is just, I figured the best way to explore this was to just do a tell all. These are all the things I did, all the things I participated in. These are investigations I'm doing. And God, I thought I'd be getting more flack from Antifa, but like having a buddy of mine, he came out speaking against the Freemasons because we believed that there were some criminal elements connected to the group. I have Freemasons showing up to my work now. I haven't even gotten badgering from Antifa. I've had weird algorithmic attacks. The last few months have gotten very, very, very odd. And it seems to be the more we speak out about these criminal groups that are driving this in the shadows, who are taking advantage of groups like Antifa, I'm just realizing it's so much darker and deeper than I possibly thought. And I'm really hoping right now, with the National Guard being in Portland and Oregon, that they're going after the right people. But I'm really worried that Antifa, they're really just human shields at the end of the day for the key players who are really making the profits. And I think a lot of them are going to throw themselves under the bus, be thrown under the bus, get rounded up. And really, at the end of the day, a lot of these key shadow elements, these players, they're going to slip away because it's not understood. Not enough people are talking out. So it's like, what data is there to go on if people from that experience and that background aren't talking about it?
Yeah, so Antifa and also some of the BLM rioters, those you guys and the people like that are basically expendable cannon fodder for dark forces that they don't even fully understand. And I want to reach, just like you, I'd like to reach out to as many of these people as possible. And everyone is human. A person who's caught up with Antifa is still human. There is a way back from that. And to not let yourself be used as a pawn in this game of chess that we're in. And same thing, they can be radicalizing people on the right as well, although it seems to be more organized on the left. Um, I'm really interested in hearing about what is going on right now in Oregon and your perspective on that. You mentioned a little bit, and I'm also interested in, I watched your video where you said I am Tyler Robinson. referring to the accused killer of Charlie Kirk. And I'm really interested in what you have to say about that and that young man's potential path of radicalization. Um, which one do you want to start with, Oregon or the Charlie Kirk shooting?
I'll start with the I am Tyler thing first because I felt like I was getting nowhere on the podcast. I was having really good conversations. I was putting out good content. I was doing a lot of soul searching, but it started to feel hopeless after a while because I was just like, why isn't anybody speaking out? You know? So recently found myself back in the path of Christianity again, trying to get right with God, which I think this podcast and these conversations really helped attribute it to, because I wouldn't even use the term Christian in the beginning. I believed in God, but I considered myself an omniist. So, you know, I was praying after coming to that decision of, God, just give me a sign, something that's from you, that I know is from you, that can't be manipulated, nothing dark, nothing trippy, nothing I can attribute false meaning to. Like, give me a sign that I need to keep going. So, you know, my name's Tyler. The shooter's name was Tyler. It happened about on September 11th, technically the 10th, but the day that I spoke to Buck Angel for the first time was September 11th of 2024. And the more I go into this kid's story, it's just like, yeah, this is me. I even put my mugshot up next to his. We have our head tilted the same. It's just like everything's the same, which is a little thing that I do now when these shooters come out, is I put my mugshot next to theirs and I'm just like, huh. But yeah, and it's just, that's kind of the weird place that I'm in right now, is everyone's like, I am Charlie, I am Jimmy. And I'm just like the one guy that's like, I'm the other guy. And it's weird to be in. And I feel like a lot of other people are in that space too, but they just don't have a place to speak out, which is something that I hope to do. But in
So
terms of the, oh, sorry.
I want to hear more details. So how do you identify with this young man who's now sitting in jail in Utah County and facing potentially the death penalty? What makes you identify with his plight?
I see a young man who believed that his conservative family was radicalized into a cult, somebody who ran away from traditional family values to establish friendships in these queer circles, these online gaming communities. He was clearly living online constantly, which is something I was doing in Antifa. When I'm not writing, I was playing video games and watching movies. You know, it's, you know, reading the text with his friends, he seemed to be like the educated one out of the group. Like whenever people had questions about politics, they'd ask him, and he seemed pretty unbiased most of the time. He's like, here's the stats, here's what's going on. And you know, like I was threatening to kill 4 of my trans friends in the Antifa movement because they felt so under attack that I told them, I'm like, hey, if anything ever happens, they ever come for you, you come to my house, son. I got a gun. I'll defend you. I will fight for you. I will kill for you. This nation will not take you away or your rights.
So you were willing to kill for the oppressed as you saw it, and it's very, very likely that Tyler Robinson had a similar motive.
Mm-hmm. And I know that there's still debate as to whether or not the text messages back and forth were cover for these people trying to cover their actions.
Yeah.
But let's pretend that it's not. I think that a lot of people don't realize that people like me, people like Tyler, people like any of these other shooters, that the more they're getting affirmed in their head that they're right and they know everything and that they're going to be the hero vindicated in the story, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be willing to act on that, clearly. So to see those messages, they're kind of just like, what? He did what? Like they're sitting there kind of shocked. But it's, yeah, when that has been his life for the last few years, and you have these kids going on little misadventures, it's like Matthew Thomas Crook's got a BlackRock handler. I think the other one, Robert Westman, I think he was also in a BlackRock commercial. And everyone's just like, how are they finding these kids? How are they tracking these kids? Our phones know everything about us at all times, and that data is being collected and sent everywhere. And really what was going on with me and Antifa is when I wasn't at home or writing, I was going on little adventures. I was meeting people around town. When you start declaring that you're an Antifa and that you're going to be a part of the revolution, you're going to find people who are going to give you those connections. So it's like, I see a bunch of broken, lost kids fleeing to these blue areas and going on psychotic misadventures to where any shadow player can manipulate them along the way to do any number of horrible things, right down to political killings.
And I know that you have spoken, in case any people in Antifa or connected with Antifa are listening. I know you've spoken to them directly in your videos, but what message do you have for them right now?
This isn't the way. I honestly went into the podcast with like so much hatred in my heart for these people, but really the more I sit back and think and recollect on these stories, this is just broken kids. If you are an Antifa, you are a broken kid. I don't care if you're 18, 25, 30, 40. You're a broken child from a broken place, running away from awful, awful things. And you want to enact change because this country is a shitty place to be. It's supposed to be the best country in the world, but we all hate each other. We all throw shit at each other. We're all dicks to each other. We don't really care about each other as much as we pretend to. But Antifa is not the solution for that, because most people in Antifa, like I've said before, are creatives. They're musicians, they're painters, they're drawers, they're performers. That's how you change the world. Not by going out and putting fear into, you can't even say 50% of the population anymore, because at this point, Antifa has just driven everybody else in the complete different direction. So now you can't go and strike fear into 80% of the population. It's clearly backfiring. The people that you think you hate, that you really love, will die, will suffer, will get caught in the crossfire. And if you're someone like me and you get out on the other side of it, every single atrocity, every murder, every political killing, every riot is going to be a reminder for the rest of your life of all of the shit that you threw at the world. And it is not a good place to be in. And I think a lot of people, quite frankly, have killed themselves over it. So it's not worth it. The revolution, it was stupid. I was there. It made no sense. We didn't know what we were fighting for. Everyone hated each other. It's not worth it. Just if you're someone in there, just get out and speak out. Or even if you just need to get out and get away from it, just do that, for the love of God.
I mean,
Because
I have a feeling, just the more that people like you would come out and just speak out, I don't think that you'll even be in trouble. I think that it will be welcomed from all aspects of society. And it would actually take an immense amount of bravery. It did take for you, I'm sure, an immense amount of bravery to come clean. And I hope that there's many more people like you that will just realize that that's not the road they want to go down. And look, yeah, there's a lot of bad things that have happened to people, but don't let yourself become, I'm speaking to anyone who will listen also, don't let yourself become a pawn in this evil game of chess. Like, we need to find other answers. You had emailed me at one point saying that you've been doing a bunch of research. I don't know how much of that research you want to share of some of the connections with Antifa and maybe your understanding of the revolution, the Civil War that's being attempted to be launched. But I'm very interested in hearing anything you have to say on the matter.
yeah. Well, so for me, I started to do this job because I got fired from my job at Applebee's. So I was like, well, I've worked at a political polling firm like 3 or 4 times now. Let me just go back. I know it's the election season, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. You know, if there's anything shady going on because it's Antifa operated and the trans crap is everywhere, then I'm like, then I can have something to talk about on the channel and get paid for it. Why not? But when I was in the training room, there was a guy there. I told myself I wasn't going to make any friends there because the people there are just completely demoralized, high on drugs, drunk, aggro. It just so many things. But there's this guy there. And when we were going through the room and everybody's introducing himself, he was basically talking about how he studied Judeo-Christian values or something to that extent. And he was well more put together than the rest. And I was like, oh, okay, there's something kind of about this guy. So I wound up having a smoke break with him, and we started talking pretty deep. And he was a part of Antifa at one point. And he was aggravated because within the last few weeks prior, there was people essentially getting pistol whips and guns drawn on them in downtown Eugene. Gay people who were just agreeing with trans politics. It was enough to incite a lot of violent instances, people being stalked, harassed, like all of that crap. So he actually wanted to put together an anti-Antifa coalition called the Pride Panthers, and he wanted me to help him start it and recruit people. And I'm just like, nah, I got a podcast though, if you want to come on that and talk. And for a while he wouldn't, and it took a lot of like getting to know him because he was very paranoid. He didn't trust me at first, even for as much as we were opening up. And I came to realize in time, like within the first day, I was like, okay, this guy isn't as well put together as I thought. Turned out that this guy had been with Antifa for really, really short period of time because he saw through the facade, but he had worked as a drug trafficker, essentially smuggling drugs all over the United States with various different groups. And he was being used as a mule to essentially supply a lot of the rioters and to get in with people in those groups and to start setting up those connections so that they could get them, meth, cocaine, heroin, whatever they needed. So he basically kind of played that role for a minute, and that's where a lot of his guilt came in, is he just played on their stupidity and saw them as money. But ultimately he saw too much. He was being gang stalked when I met him, I learned. He was being monitored at all times, threatening text messages, people parked outside his home. He was, constantly doing drugs, drinking. He saw a lot of horrible things that had happened to children. He saw people executed in front of him, including his best friend in downtown Portland.
Executed by whom? By cartels or by gangs?
I don't know the specifics on this one, but he kept alluding to essentially the fact that downtown Portland is being operated by Chinese syndicates and that they're in control of the key players, at least when it comes to what's going on in Portland. So the people that he was working for were working under them.
So the Antifa and rioting and unrest in Portland has Communist Chinese Party pulling the strings behind the scenes.
Wow. I believe so. That's all based on, look, I'm a paranoid guy. Part of me wonders if this guy wasn't my handler, didn't know what I had going on, and wasn't coming in trying to put some false information out, But you've never seen a human being as broken as that man. It's like if he was a liar, he was a damn good one. Mm. And he was willing to speak out after I got a phone call. He almost murdered a member of Antifa with his bare hands outside a bar. He literally called me saying, I think I killed somebody. And I'm just like, what the hell? That is not the call you want to get. Turned out he didn't wind up killing somebody, but he wound up beating an active member to a pulp with his bare hands because the member was bragging about sleeping with a 14, 16-year-old kid. And no one was saying anything, and he lost it. So after that, I found him. I was ready to drag his ass to the police station, break his arm, restrain him, whatever I had to do. I was not going to sit here and be affiliated with murder, because I was like, at that point, the channel goes down. You've just fucked me over completely. This cannot happen. What the hell, man? I don't care if he is a pedophile. You can't just kill people like this. So he wound up coming and speaking on the podcast, and he talked for about 3 hours, and he detailed all of this. But I think it was an act of God that the audio didn't come out at the end of it, because he was saying his name, his address, here I am, come and get me. I'm tired of hiding from you. Kill me already. I'll say everything right now. And I was just like, dude, simmer it down a little bit. Glad you're being open, but I'm going to have to cut a lot of this because I'm not trying to send people to kill you. But then my good friend Larry, who was a Freemason at one point, basically told me, treat this guy like a loaded gun pointed to your head and walk the hell away from him. He's like, I know who these people are. I know what's going on. And then over the course of a 7-episode series with him, talking about his encounters with the Greys and the Freemasons and the occult and this, things just got really, really, really dark. I always try to find shorter ways to tell these stories. This has been the longest year of my life. And I know that this is true because the amount of resistance that I've been facing, it's very, very odd.
So to summarize, you're saying that there's connections with drug cartels potentially with Antifa. There's connections with communist Chinese potentially. Um, so these people are at war with the United States, and they're trying to utilize a radicalized group of young people with maybe poor judgment who are out of their mind on drugs half the time. What else am I missing?
No, that about sums it up on that front. And it's like I don't know to what extent or how bad it is, but the news isn't going to talk about that front.
Mhm.
And I had some sources that I had been talking to behind the scenes, and one thing that kind of shocked me was it Hurricane Irma, the one that wiped out the East Coast, and then FEMA didn't deliver like aid to like people with Trump signs.
Helene, I
One
think.
of yeah,
Helene.
sorry for anybody out there that suffered through that. It's just hard for me to keep up with the hurricanes sometimes. But essentially, whenever the government pulled out and they left the people there to rot, there was a stand down from the right wing militias and Antifa. They were told, do not bring your mask, do not bring your banners, do not bring your guns, do not bring your weapons. If you feel like this isn't what we should be doing, don't show up at all. Both sides ordered to stand down and started working to help the community in that time of need. They said, we can't fight right now. Everything is screwed. Government's not going to help us. We need to come together. And from my understanding, that there's a lot of attempted peace talks happening with that, but essentially that it was on shaky ground, because if anything were to happen, it was essentially it seems like they're wanting a color revolution. I think that Charlie Kirk was the green light for that, but I think that there was talks that they were trying to simmer that behind the scenes, and I can't see anything like that happening now.
Okay. So tell me about your concept and your belief that which obviously there's plenty of evidence for that we're on the precipice of an attempted civil war and what Antifa's role. Go ahead and lay that out for what your concept of that is.
I think the silence that we've felt the last year with Antifa signifies a lot, kind of a quiet before the storm. And it's like a lot of these people, they didn't stop operating. A lot of people in Antifa, I knew they were like, okay, we want to go start a commune. We want to live with our friends. We want to get out of the city. We want to do this. I think that's how you wind up getting things like disease transterrical. It's like now they're starting to become more like cells, and they're all individually ideologically driven. They're not going to have any connections. But one thing that's scaring me with the Charlie Kirk thing is reading the responses from people who've never been in a protest or a BLM event, like old white ladies, it seems like a lot of the time. They're saying the same type of things that we would say in Antifa. So it's like, it's almost like now a large portion of the American public has that same murderous dialogue that really just used to be contained to the streets. And it's from people that aren't even affiliated with it. So that's really starting to freak me out. I do a show called These People Are Idiots on my podcast with my buddy Cyprian Ivanov, who he was born into communist Romania. And, he works in DC now. He's been involved in politics for some years. And he told me recently, like, the big fear right now is essentially that we move into a phase of reciprocal assassinations. Kind of getting worried that we're getting to that point.
Meaning,
to which I would.
okay, meaning reciprocal, meaning someone, the people, leftists assassinate someone on the right, and then a radicalized people on the right assassinate someone on the left, and it just goes back and forth. That's what you think.
Yeah, which is basically what happened street level with BLM. It's like everybody acted like there was a tally. They kept names. Like it'll just become a game at that point.
So do your best job to kind of paint a picture of what this type, if let's say it does get to that, reciprocal assassinations, where does it go from there? How does this impact the average American? How does this impact America's ability to maintain its solvency as a nation? Like what are your thoughts on that?
Not too many thoughts on the post, because at that point I just see it all spiraling downhill. But I think a big problem right now, and I don't know if this answers the question, so sorry if it doesn't, but we're just so normalized to it at this point, and so much of the tragedy has been hidden from us. The last 2 years in this country, we've seen trains going off into rivers, chemical spills, factory explosions, constant little plagues that pop up every now and again, radiation poisoning that's making tentacles grow from faces of animals at this point down here in Texas. Like, we've been so normalized up to this point that I think when this really pops off, most people even then aren't going to realize it. I mean, we're waking up every single day to a new church being slaughtered, bombs being detonated here, fire started here, and most people still won't even, it's just a blip on their radar, here and gone. So I think that what's scaring me is I don't think we're going to respond like in the movies. I think that a lot of people are going to go into this very, very jaded, very happy to be misinformed, very happy to not pay attention to anything until they walk into the middle of a mall and a white boy with an AK-47 guns him down for no reason other than the fact that Twitter pissed him off that day. Like, our response as a nation to the series of tragedies that have been happening in the last 10 years has been completely abysmal. We have all the freedom of speech in the world, and nobody has talked about the horrors of this. And to be fair, YouTube censors the hell out of people that try to. Like me, I've tried to talk about Antifa. I've had thousands of views disappear out of the blue. I try to talk to people like Tim Pool and send a super chat. I'll send like $20. Hey, I was in Antifa, let's talk. It'll steal my money and delete my messages. So a lot of this boils down to, I think, the social media companies are really setting the stage for this. And even with Donald Trump being empowered, like, the levels of technological suppression are still so thick that if there's any hope of getting through it, these censorship mechanisms have to go. Like, they have to go. If that means that my page is littered with Nazis calling for a Holocaust, so be it. Like, freedom of speech means everybody gets to speak and everybody gets an equal chance to be heard, even if their ideas are wrong and horrid.
Okay, so freedom of speech is part of the answer. Being aware. I mean, what should what should the average person know about being prepared for what's coming, or what's likely to be coming, according to what you believe?
Read your Bible. That's the lesson I'm learning. Read your Bible, learn how to shoot, make healthier decisions. Extend an olive branch, I think, is a big one. I think a lot of us have a lot of family members we've isolated and talked shit to. And I've been saying it from the beginning. So much of this could be healed with an I'm sorry, with an I was wrong, with a you want to smoke a joint, you want to have a beer, you want to go out to dinner. Like, it sounds so corny, but it's the lack of that over the last 10 years that's really contributed to this. We got to get back to the basics, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can call me an idealist, but I think the number one solution for that would put an end to all of this. And honestly, I think Erica Kirk did her part in this. It's actually extending forgiveness. And if Antifa people, if radicalized people on the right, if anyone, if we forgive whoever it was that hurt us, and a lot of people have been very badly hurt. A lot of people have been had horrible childhoods. Parents did not properly care for them, or people do have wounds over being discriminated against with racism or whatever the case may be. We can forgive those people that have hurt us, and we can move forward. That's really has to be a part of the solution. In the meantime, we got to be wise and we got to be aware. I mean, I live in one of the safest, most conservative communities in the whole nation, and I even still feel a need to be cautious. Gal, what other things did you wanted to share about, like, in terms of like what you're seeing with Antifa, like what's going on behind the scenes? Are they training together? They're different, the different cells doing like combat exercises, or like what types of things might they be up to?
Probably, because this is the thing, as much as I've been speaking out about Antifa, you'd think I'd be researching Antifa 24/7. A lot of what I've been doing the last year is going back to my own stories, my own past, really diving into my psychology and trying not to get too mixed up in what's going on. But now that all this is happening, it's kind of like, oh crap, I need to get back to studying. But I think what I've really learned is it's not necessarily it's obviously the militant types you want to be like afraid of, the people training and doing all that. But those are going to be more of your black bloc type street fighters. The ones that you want to look out for are the loose cannons, and the ones who've created collectives. The Z's Trans Chair Cult, that was a collective. That was a couple of people who lived in their own reality, did all their drugs together, shared the same memes, had the same set of beliefs, didn't let any outside opinion in, and they forged their reality into something dark and twisted, and then people died. Tyler Robinson, I think even though he had these friend groups in this relationship, that was a lonely freaking kid. Robert Westman, lonely fucking kid. It's, if you want to understand what's going to happen with Antifa, you have to understand shooters. You have to understand their psychology. You know, stories like Aaron Stark, who did a TED Talk, I was almost a school shooter. Guys like that. You know, people who've either committed atrocities or almost committed atrocities, because Antifa's behavior is becoming more akin to mass shooter mentality. When I read the stories of mass shooters, when I read these manifestos, and then I see their actions being carried out, the psychology is the exact same. It's the exact same. Thankfully, for minus a lot of people, minus the killing, but that killing is going to become more and more frequent. Way more frequent.
So for me, looking at like how there seems to be maybe out of proportion higher number of like say trans people who are maybe involved in some of these shootings, to me that makes sense because they've been told, you know, the whole Marxist framework, oppressed versus oppressor, and if you're oppressed, you're morally it's okay for you to lash out against the oppressor. Is there anything else I'm missing with that aspect of things?
No, that's about right. And I think what's driving the trans community with this is there's such a sense of fucking cruelty with these newer generations, and they don't even realize when they're being cruel. You see it in the memes, you see it in the jokes they make. There's just this nihilistic, narcissistic ego that just constantly likes to joke about dark and edgy things. But over time, that just becomes their entire fucking reality. Like these kids got brainwashed as hell. And I think that one way that people can stand up to these queer Marxists and this agenda and all this fucking protect trans people nonsense, we need to call this what it was. This was a eugenics campaign. This was trans the gay away. This was sterilize. You know, it was eugenics through and through. And I see no difference between what Antifa is doing for the trans community right now and a bunch of SS soldiers defending the actions of Joseph Goebbels. There is no difference, like at all. This is eugenics. This is Nazism. This is fascism. Everything they like to say about the rest of the world, they have embodied.
Right.
And that projection can't work anymore. It has to be called out for what it is.
Right. I mean, just looking at the state of Utah and the armed queers, Salt Lake City, and like the not NGO funding, and perhaps like I guess even one of the people involved with this armed queers group of Salt Lake City, which I initially, when I first saw like the whole thing with like the inscription on the bullets from Tyler Robinson, I'm like, oh, I wonder if armed queers Salt Lake City was involved. Um, they're getting lots of government funding at various times. Um, that has to be put, we have to put an end to that. What
That's
do
the
we,
government funding a civil war on
yeah.
its own soil.
And how do we talk to these young people? I mean, I know there's some detransitioners out there that are trying to speak sense into people. Buck Angel, himself a trans man, has a very solid basis of understanding reality as well. Um, how else do we reach these young people that have they really are victims, but they are victims of kind of sometimes the opposite of what they're thinking.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think Buck Angel really set the stage on that one because it wasn't just a few transitioners. You go through his channel, it's like probably hundreds. And the same with Blair White, Ariel Scarcella, you know, Rose of Dawn. There were so many people going out there and pushing this issue that I didn't expect there to be such a backstep so fast on all these trans issues and for them to start banning a lot of these like important procedures. But because of the wave that they created and the collective of people that they pulled together from a similar tragedy, but each with their own different backgrounds, their own traumas, basically thousands of detransitioners, I feel like, came out. At that point, the noise became unavoidable. People couldn't call them liars anymore. I think when it comes to Antifa, that needs to happen. And if anybody out there is listening to this right now and they've been a victim of Antifa, or they've been in Antifa, or anything that they feel like they could talk to me about, I want to help facilitate that message, because somebody's got to fucking do it at this point. Because I'm just sitting here watching all these conservatives scream into the camera, being like, where are these people? Where are these people? And I can't even send them a message without YouTube stealing my money. So, there's a lot of resistance, but I think if people extend an olive branch and give these people a place to speak and offer that publicly, I think people will come out, because this is an insurrection and it has to be sold out.
Yeah. So as you know, I reached out to Andy No on X, and he actually responded to me to try to make a connection for him to talk with you. And then that was the same day that Trump signed that executive order, and Andy was on like tons of interviews, so I'm sure he was super busy. But I'm gonna reach back out to him. But what would you like to say to Andy No? Let's say he gets to watch this.
Thank you for pushing through all that bullshit, all that pain, all that struggle. Like, it took balls, it took courage. You are a real example to, I hope people in Antifa realize what an example you are of what it means to be a true American, and to fight for justice, and to fight for truth, and to fight for freedom. And I'd love to run my mouth on everything that I know to you. Ultimately, just thank you, because so many people in Oregon were willing to ignore what was happening, even when it was right in front of their faces. You saw the horrors, you saw the dangers, and you called out brats like me. We were punks. The people that beat you were punks. The people sending you threats, it's just, not to sound too crude, but it's just bitch behavior. It's not okay. It's become increasingly terroristic. And to know that there's somebody who's been willing to stand up despite all that, it's pretty cool. It's really inspiring. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely share his interview link with him. Any last words for Antifa members, for Americans at large?
This war was never worth it. Every group of people that Antifa chose to champion, trans people, black people, Mexicans, this, that, none of these groups wanted a war. They wanted change. They just, it started with, we want to change policy decisions, to we want to slaughter our family and friends. Nobody asked for that. So to engage in that, or to just sit by and allow it to happen, it's completely abhorrent at this point. They always used to like to say in Antifa, silence is violence. So for anybody sitting on the sidelines and they know something, or they've seen something, they've heard something, they've been a part of something, yeah, the difference is this time that statement applies. Silence is violence. People are going to continue to die. And if you were a part of that and you feel guilty about it, you should do something constructive with it, but you should feel guilty. But I would just ask the rest of the American people, conservatives, Christians, people such as yourself, to just keep praying for people like that, and to leave the door open, and to give them space to come back and say, I'm sorry. Because I think a lot of people are about to start doing that.
Certainly hope so. And I certainly hope that we can prevent this radicalization from happening. I just hope the best for our nation. Either way, we need to be wise. We need to understand what we're working against here. Ty, I know you've got to go to work. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. And I hope that I'll do everything I can to get this message out, and hopefully you can get bigger platforms and speak this to even bigger groups. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much too. It's been a blessing, and yeah, you have a good day.
Yeah. See you later.
To my back to the light that I got. I made a plan, now it's time to
One day later, did I fade or got that dick beside the
Going
bed?
hard, going trash. Who the fuck nigga this from? What it us? That's what you are. You in the middle, you're falling apart. Going hard, going trash. Who the fuck nigga this from? What it us? That's what you are. You in the middle, you're falling apart. Ay, time to put my focus towards the shit that helps me fly. No more lost and don't in the shit that wastes my life. Dedicated progress, that's the reason I'm alive. Happy is the moments when my values all align. Mission for drop, just get up again. Elevate left from the left in my head. Stereotype with decisions I left. Fuck all the heavy sex to my split. Don't give a fuck if I'm running a friend. Maybe some lost anybody from dead. Keeping my shit and I feel you in life. That means I'm still happy with life. Okay, watch me really do it. I was never gonna be one and done. Can't end up like so and so. I've been here for far too long. Hey, it's not something I can't let it up. List of operations, time to take it off and put it up. They will disengage until we unchain. I'm here with pulses, perfect timing, bitch, we never lie. I guess I levitate. Hustle for 7 days. It's only me inside this fucking ride. Unless I think things are alive. You will think that I live for the game. But you're wrong, all this bullshit is a waste. I've been living lessons to avoid an early grave. I live for more. I still walk connected to my faith. Introspective message got you thinking I'm insane. You gonna regret it, time you're spending on the chase. No goes but your own, and those are people you retain. Now you're miserable. Whole life spent invested in the lies from the digital. Standing up like hustle stories, mindless, fictional. All your so-called lighters come from some subliminal. Is this your design here? Is it unoriginal?